Welcome again. My name is Szabolcs, still the one with the difficult name, and in this video I would like to provide you with some tools, with some practical tips to how to manage your responses to triggering situations. Since I talked about anxiety in my previous video, it made sense to me to talk a little bit more about triggers. If you missed that video about anxiety, you can click on the link in the description below to watch it. In order to better understand the triggers, I will use a document that I specifically developed to help anyone who wish to know more about their own personal triggers. Again, I will leave a link in the description below what you can use to download this form. It is completely free and does not require any registration whatsoever. Just to quickly browse through this document so that you know what you may expect from it, you can see that it explains what triggers are, how we may respond to them, the advantages and disadvantages of avoiding triggers, and the advantages and disadvantages of facing with triggers. It also prompts you to think about trigger categories and about examples to what you could do when you feel triggered. You are welcome to browse through the full document, and if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. In today's video, we are going to talk a little bit more about what triggers are and how we may be able to categorize them. So what are triggers? The way I think about them, anything could be considered a trigger that we would respond to in an unwanted way. The key word is unwanted, as through a trigger we may experience something that we do not want to experience at all. Another important aspect to remember is that a trigger precedes the response to it. So the trigger will cause the response. We could respond to triggers in an unwanted way on different levels. These are emotional response to a trigger, so what we feel, cognitive or thinking level response to a trigger, which is about what we think, behavioral response to a trigger, that is what we do, and physiological response to a trigger, so what we experience in our body when we feel triggered. An example to an emotional response would be feeling angry, sad, or anxious after encountering a trigger. A cognitive or thinking level response to a trigger may be that we do not feel attractive today and we are having the thought that everyone keeps staring at us and sees us the same way. An example to a behavioral response to a trigger could be that we may act out and become argumentative, or the opposite, we may become withdrawn and isolated. Finally, responding to a trigger on a physiological level could mean experiencing headaches, stomach cramps, and symptoms of anxiety such as heart palpitations. What are your triggers? Are you aware of them? Let's try to use categories to discover more about them. The categories I came up with are emotional state, thoughts, place, people, situations, events, and the miscellaneous, so a mixed category. We will go through these categories one by one and attempt to come up with some examples to these as well. The first category is emotional state. As you can see, I use the examples of feeling frustrated or worthless. For example, in a work context, we may have a lot of tasks to get through today, which could make us feel frustrated, or someone may repeatedly make comments about a mistake we made earlier, which could make us feel worthless at work. Because the trigger precedes the unwanted response to it, we could think about what could make us feel frustrated or worthless, in which case these emotions will be the unwanted responses to a trigger. Or we may react negatively to feeling frustrated or worthless, in which case they become the triggers themselves and they will lead to other unwanted responses. This structure, when a trigger leads to an unwanted response, which could then lead to another trigger, which could then lead to another unwanted response, so this structure looks pretty much like the beginning of a vicious cycle to me, when an unpleasant experience just keeps spiraling. For example, we may have many tasks to complete today, trigger, and we think about how busy we will be because of this thought level response to a trigger, which could make us feel frustrated, emotional response, and then we become argumentative or snappy, behavioral response, which may cause a conflict with one of our colleagues, new trigger, which now leads to an unwanted response such as I shouldn't have raised my voice at my colleague, thought level response, feeling of guilt, emotional response, and avoiding that colleague for a while, behavioral response. Can you see the pattern now? Okay. The next trigger category is thoughts. The examples I used here were thinking that your friends only fake their friendship with you, or thinking that your partner deserves someone better than you. Again, we can think about these examples as unwanted responses to triggers, or we could think about them as triggers that could lead to unwanted responses. For example, if they are the triggers, then thinking that our friends only fake their friendship with us may lead to unwanted responses such as feeling that we are a burden to them, emotional response, and choosing to isolate ourselves from them. That's the behavioral response. If we think about these examples as unwanted responses to a trigger, then thinking that our partner deserves someone better than us could be the thought level response to the trigger of feeling insecure and threatened in our relationship. The next category is place. It could be a specific place or places in general. A specific place could be our current workplace or the site of an accident. A place in general could be crowded places, places where we are expecting loud noises or where we are expecting social encounters that we do not feel comfortable with. The trigger category of people is similar, in my opinion. It could be specific people or particular types of people. Examples to specific people whose presence we may find triggering could be John from HR, a housemate, or a parent. Particular types of people could be people who try to be the center of attention, loud people, or people who chew their food in a loud manner. Being around certain people may lead to unwanted responses such as feeling frustrated, emotional response, or thinking that we will have to come up with excuses in the future to avoid lunch with a coworker who is a loud chewer, thinking level response. The next two categories are situations and events. While these categories may have similarities, one of the differences between them could be the following. A potentially triggering situation may be something that we find ourselves in, which could be planned or unplanned. It could be someone asking for directions from us on the street, or we may ask someone out on a date. Someone asking us for directions could be a potentially triggering, unplanned social situation that may lead to an unwanted thinking level response such as why are they asking me? Are they trying to hurt me? And so on. Whereas asking someone out on a date could be a potentially triggering, planned social situation, which may lead to unwanted physiological responses such as feeling hot and sweating. On the other hand, a potentially triggering event may be something that we are aware of before it actually happened, so it is planned. For example, we may find an upcoming family gathering triggering, which may lead to unwanted responses such as thinking that we cannot get out of it, that would be the thought level response, and feeling trapped, emotional response. Another example to potentially triggering event could be a job interview, which could lead to, for example, unwanted thinking level responses such as everyone is more qualified than me, they are not going to hire me, why do I even bother? The last trigger category in this form is miscellaneous, or a mixture of anything that does not necessarily fit into the other categories. These could include seeing certain objects, especially after a traumatic experience involving those objects, like knives, scissors, or perhaps seeing certain animals after animal attacks. The key in this category and in all the other categories is to think about your own personal examples to them, as these will be very unique to you and to your experiences. Okay, just a brief summary at the end. Triggers are experiences that may lead to unwanted responses from us, and just about anything could be considered a trigger. We also talked about how we may respond to triggers. These were emotional response, thought or cognitive level response, behavior response, and physiological response to triggers. Finally, we took a look at the trigger categories and attempted to come up with examples to these as well. Now it's your turn to think about your own personal triggers. Being aware of your triggers is a good first step in finding ways to managing your responses to them. There are advantages and disadvantages to both facing with triggers and avoiding them. Remember, you can find some more information about this in the form that we looked at together today. You can download it completely free by using the link in the description below. I hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification button so that you may not miss out on more videos in the future. If you wanted to book in for a consultation with me, you can find my website, social media and contact details in the description below. Feel free to get in touch and I will be at your service to find your pace together. Thank you and I wish you well.